Okay, so not all my presentations are going to be like yesterday because I just don't have the time to shoot them all. So firstly, let's discuss duties and responsibility of students for online learning standard operating procedure, which they've actually reduced to SOP. Standard operating procedure, SOP. It was worth reducing those three words down to an acronym. This is what you're up against. So objectives. Distance education is a new global technology-based education used to facilitate easy, immediate learning and communication between teachers, that's me, and students, that's you, in education programs during the COVID-19 pandemic. I wonder if your science teacher thinks this is a pandemic. Interesting. Distance learning education can provide education for everyone, but doesn't, especially for younger students. It leads people to learn individually and shifts responsibility for learning from instructors to students. Now that I will agree with. Responsibility veers very strongly away from the teachers back towards the students and their parents. Which it's always been. It's always been part of, think of it as a machine with all the cogs working together. Education only works if everything is functioning at the same time. The students have to work properly, the parents have to work properly, and finally the school and eventually the teacher all have to work properly together to make this work. If the students let themselves down, it doesn't work. But with distance learning, it's worse. The responsibility is much more strongly placed on yourself. To make distance education a success, students are expected to observe the school's guidance, rules and regulations. Now I'm not a huge fan of rules, as you can probably imagine. However, for things to work smoothly, we've all got to be in the same place at the same time to make this work. So the rules are, we've got here 10 rules, 2 rules that you must not do. We'll talk through them, and then I've got some personal rules as well that I want to talk through. So number 1, duties and responsibilities. Number 1, create a quiet and comfortable study space. Now I know that isn't always possible. I know that most of you can find some place where you can work, usually your bedroom or whatever, but not everybody can. Not everyone can have a quiet, comfortable study space. It's not possible for everyone to do that, and I do sympathise, but make the best of it. Try and get some headphones on, try and cut off the outside world. It's better if you've got a place where you can be alone, where you've got no distractions, and where you've got a quiet environment. You need to be able to concentrate on the material coming in. Otherwise it doesn't work. I know, I've got to bring my 5-year-old kid to class and he is a nightmare of a distraction. So, and that's me, and I'm very practiced at this kind of nonsense. So for you it's even worse. So make sure you've got a nice comfortable space where you aren't distracted too much by other noises. Be punctual. We'll touch on that again in my rules. Log in on time. Logging in late screws you up and it screws up everybody else. In some of the classrooms, I have to go in and manually allow people into the classroom, which doesn't really work very well because I have to then stop what I'm doing. Often if I'm in front of the camera, I've then got to walk over and manually stop talking and allow people in. It ruins the whole class, and sometimes this can go on all the way through the class. The worst time for this is obviously the 7:30 to 8:30 classes. That's a nightmare. If you've got an early morning class, please make sure you're there on time. Being on time is very, very important. Be dressed for school, wear your school uniform. Okay, I personally don't care what you wear, I really don't. I'd rather you felt comfortable and at ease than were dressed in a school uniform. I don't care about that. It's one of the school rules. I think it's almost impossible for us to check on that. I'm not going to check on that. The only way I could would be to make you stand in front of the camera and make me check out what you're wearing. That's going to take me, 5, 6, 7 minutes out of a 50-minute class where I already have to stop and do other things. I don't care what you wear. The rule is that, make sure you're aware of it. Mute your microphone and turn on your camera. I would prefer your cameras on. Sometimes I'm going to require your cameras to be on. I know some of you don't have that ability. I don't believe in excuses. If you've got a reason why the camera can't be on, then don't put the camera on. But I have already noticed that the students who are achieving more are the ones with the camera on because they have the right attitude. So get that in your head. Do not drink or eat Okay, I mean, I agree with that, but if you want to drink water, that's fine. If you want to do something behind the camera that I can't see, so long as you're focused and getting the work done, personally, I don't care. So long as you're getting the work done, I don't really mind. I am not going to shout at you if I can hear people drinking in the background. Pay attention and be respectful. Pay attention. Okay, that's obviously the key thing here. You're here to learn, and it's very, very difficult for the teachers to teach you under these conditions. So please make sure that you're doing everything you can to maximize your chance of getting an education. So pay attention, listen to what we're trying to say to you. Sometimes I'm going to talk nonsense. Sometimes I'm going to talk about motorcycles, or I'm going to talk about one of my old friends from London, and it might seem like I'm just gibbering randomly, but I've got a point. I always make a point with what I say. So listen to what I'm saying, because I'm going somewhere, okay? It's the same with any other teacher. A maths teacher might be talking about something that sounds completely unrelated, but there will be a point that they're trying to make, and eventually they will get you to where you need to be. So please pay attention. All of this matters. Be respectful, again, is very important. Respect the other people in the class by just not interrupting and not making it hard for me to teach everybody. This is a terrible situation for us. The teachers find it very difficult to know where we all are. So please be respectful and understand that we're doing our best, students and teachers alike. Wait, sit. Ask the teacher for permission if you want to leave the class for any reason. Yeah, okay. If we're in class, I totally agree. Obviously, you need to ask permission because you are going to disrupt the class, and I don't allow toilet breaks in my class. James, stop it. I don't allow toilet breaks in my class because it's disruptive. And I think that at your age, you should be able to hold on for 45 minutes between rushing to the toilet. Also, I know it's an excuse for the bad students to just waste their time. So I don't allow it. There's not much I can do to stop you, and I am not going to police it. I don't have the time. So again, I think it's probably an ideal that we're not going to achieve. Use only real names for Google Meet and Google Classroom. This is to ensure that we can recognize everyone joining the course. Right, okay. Make sure that you've got an email address that has your name in it. I've got a lot of students this year, more than I have before. I've probably got 150 kids this year. I can't keep track of you all. I don't know your faces. I only know the pictures you've got on screen and your names. So I don't know who you are. So I need your email addresses to match up to the email addresses and your names all on the list, so I can see exactly who's getting what scores. If it doesn't, you're getting a 0. Last year, I'm not joking, one of my students changed his email address to James Big Dick. He got 0 in my class, obviously. And it wasn't because I was holding him back, but because he thought it was all fun and games. I didn't know who he was. When I found the email address, I checked him out to find out who's being this stupid. And of course, I'm looking at his scores, he's getting 4% in exams. Okay, so his problem. Make sure your email address lines up with your name so we can track you. Report technical errors regarding Google Meet or Google Classroom to the registrar, TAs or staff. There's going to be problems. Many of the problems sort themselves out within a few minutes, so please be aware of that. You know the score. Google Classroom is terrible. It's very overloaded. So let it happen, and then we'll see. Give it a few minutes. If it doesn't sort itself out, then yeah, absolutely report it. Sorry, I've got a message coming in. Yeah. Let somebody know that there's a problem. Complete all assignments like homework and classroom and send them back to the teachers. Well, of course, that goes without saying, but do it on time. Quizzes, tests need to be done in class. I don't have time to chase you for them, so I won't. If you don't do them, you don't get a grade. Simple as that. You're going to get 0s and you're going to fail, and I don't want to do that to you. Students must not play with their computers or other electronic devices. I don't know why they put that there. I mean, this is a hangover from the days of you actually being in class. How can I stop you using your computers and phones when most of you are on your computers and phones to be in the classroom? But I think the message here is, stay focused. Don't use your phone or your laptop as a toy. It's not a toy, it's a tool. Use it as a tool. Don't chat, message, or play games during class. Some of you are going to, and I can't really do very much to stop you. You'll fail, and you will fail at life. You're going to be, those of you that, I don't know who's who, but I know that those people will not succeed at life. They will be the security guards sitting out there, laughing, playing with their phones, thinking this is all fun and games. And then on payday, when the students who took life seriously, they're collecting decent money, and the security guards are collecting just enough money to eat for the rest of the month. Who do you think's laughing then? And that's the difference. Play games, you will only be able to play games, and nobody will hire you to do that, so you'll be getting a low-paid job. As an example, I had two students once in class who sat next to each other. One took English very, very seriously and did really well at it, and one didn't. One just chatted, made a joke of it. One of them went on to become an English teacher herself and wrote a novel and is doing really well at life. The other one, she became a greeter in a shop inside Aeon Mall. So in other words, she stood at the door and said hello to people as they walked in. Which one do you want to do? Which one do you think is earning the most? Which one do you think is having a better life? Which one do you think has a brighter future? One of them has no choice. She has to get married. That's the only way she'll ever make any money. Don't be in that position. And that's the difference between taking this seriously and not taking it seriously. And I've been at this game long enough to see the difference. So there are the rules, they're what we expect from you. Now I also have my own rules, and I have two sets. I have my rules for the classroom, and I also have a set of rules for staying online, okay? So, here are my rules.
Being late to class means you are going to miss stuff. Every damn word Jack says is a glowing pearl of effervescent wisdom. I'm only joking, you could replace him with a chimpanzee and, if you shaved it, I doubt anyone would notice. But being late to class messes things up for you. Yeah, you miss some of the class and that doesn't seem like a huge deal, but there's a major problem with it. You're at an age where you're learning habits that will last for a lifetime. How long do humans live anyway? Even if it's 3 months, it's still too long, if you ask me. If you keep being late, you're just learning to be late. When you work for a living, that habit will follow you and you'll struggle to adapt to normal life. I'll cut out the explanation and just say that you'll starve to death if you do that at work. Personally, I don't care either way. When it comes to the end of humanity, I'm all for it. Cheating is the dumbest thing you can do in school. Cheating in work is fine, I do it all the time. I cheat on my taxes, I cheat on everything. I cheat because I get something out of it, and because I like causing problems for people. But, when you cheat in school, what do you get? The whole point of being in school is to learn how to do things. If you cheat on an assignment, you didn't learn anything from it, so the only loser is you. School is a safe place to fail. Don't believe me, try it in the real world and see what happens. Jack has a cattle prod next to me, and if I fail to do this, he's going to stick it into my higher cognitive processor, which is made from 8 processors, 17 RAM cards, and a piece of an air conditioner. I could lose my ability to think for myself, and then I'd only be able to work as a liberal gender studies teacher. That's what happens if you cheat. We need to keep a record of who is here and who isn't for some inexplicable reason. It confuses me because this is a private school and you're the paying customers. Can you imagine if a shop acted like this, forcing you to log in and then tracking your movement? It's not exactly good customer service. Mind you, they're actually doing that now, but humans aren't logical, so none of that surprises me. So, sign in. I don't know why, or care. If grown-ups don't do their work on time, they're taken out the back and shot. Or, they should be, or they will be in a few more years if things keep going the way they're going. Who knows? But adults who work for a living don't have the luxury of missing deadlines, so it's important to do your work when it needs doing. You see, if you don't do it, Jack can't collect the scores. If he doesn't do that, they can't make up the reports. If that doesn't happen, the entire world economy collapses and the world is taken over by giant cockroaches, or something. I don't know. I wasn't paying attention. Jack doesn't have time to chase you for your assignments. School has given him 28 hours instead of 24 and he couldn't cope with what he was meant to do, so you can imagine how bad it's going to be now. So, don't make excuses. I once heard Jack talking about motorcycles and, against all the odds, he actually made sense. Someone was showing off the new bike they bought and someone else was proud of one they'd built. Buying something is nothing to be proud of, making something is. It shows you have some ability of your own and that you've created something special that nobody else can have. It's the same, only the opposite with excuses. When you make them, you take something away from yourself. There's nothing happening in this class that you can't do, so there's no need for an excuse. Think of people who make a lot of excuses, like liberals, who don't think for themselves and who use their feeling to justify being offended by everything. They did a great job making the world a better place, didn't they? So those are the only rules. They're not hard.
Okay, so I'm going to give you a brief introduction of what you can expect in the Step Ahead 4 or 5 book. In simple terms, more of the same. It's pretty much the same as grade 10, only different. Is it any better? No. Is it any worse? No. Is it exactly the same? More or less. So, this is what it's all about. It's not a bad book. It's kind of fun. There are some things in it that are okay. Let's go through the index. It's the easiest way, I guess. What have we got? So we've got correspondence. That's a fancy word for letters. So we'll look through that, show you how to write letters. Now, we've already touched on that. If you had a good teacher in grade 10, they would have gone through CVs and you would have had cover letters and things like that. So we're going to look at correspondence, how to write, the importance of formal versus informal, how these things work, how they're meant to work, and why all these things fit together. Then we're going to have a look at instructions, Unit 2. Now, instructions is going to work really well in class. Hopefully we'll be in class for that one, because if you're not, it kind of ruins it. Responding to conversations, listening to them, understanding what you're seeing. All of these things are pretty cool if they're done in class. If not, I've got to find a new way to do them, and it's hell. What's that? Unit 3 is narratives. Now this is where I'm a writer, I like books, I like stories. Narratives is just a fancy word for stories. So we can look into that, about how narratives work. We can do narrative analysis. I can show you how stories fit together. And it's pretty interesting stuff. Some stories that you've seen are really, really clever. Some are really, really stupid. And I'll be able to show you which is which. If you look on my website, we've got a 45-minute Daisy video about Frozen, about a narrative analysis of Frozen and what's really going on behind the scenes of Frozen. And the story is way more complicated than you think it is. And it's nasty as well. It's Disney are nasty. Frozen 2 is even worse. And they hide all these hidden meanings in stories. Novel analysis and narrative analysis helps you to get those messages out. So that's pretty interesting. We can go into the depth of all that, and I can show you what these things really mean. Then Unit 4 is recounts, which is kind of it's a stupid chapter. Recounts are just a way of recounting information. So it's true stories being told as if it's a diary entry. So not the most exciting thing to do, and it's something we've covered ad infinitum. text for performance, so we look at scripts. A couple of years ago when I taught grade 11 first, it was a lot more fun because the scripts we had in here, I could actually look up on YouTube or whatever, and we could actually see the real scenes played out. Can't do that anymore because they're just too old. They've been taken down, they're lost. But we can look at other scripts. Last year we had a look at some scripts. Last year we were in class for some of it, so we actually got people up, we did performances. And I know a lot of people are terrible at that, but it doesn't matter, it's a bit of fun, and it helps to see how scripts really work, which helps you to understand how movies and theatre work, and it gives you a deeper insight into what goes into making a TV show or a movie. Explanations, Unit 6. I don't know why they keep flogging this dead horse. We all know how explanations work. Something's going to be explained to you. We look at frozen mammoths. We do Kampong pastimes. We skip that. Last year I skipped it because it was absolutely terrible, and then I had to write the final exam and someone added Kampong pastimes to it, and it's just the worst piece. So we'll try and skip that. Then we have Unit 7 reports, writing a report. Again, kind of boring, pretty dull. We don't really like that. Persuasive text in Unit 8. We didn't get to that last time if we were online, because you can't really do it very well. It's about arguing, how to argue. We did go into it, we went into how to build an argument, how to convince people of your side of the story. There's a thing here, fear of Frankenstein. We did Frankenstein in grade 11 in summer school. Any of you that did it with me, it was pretty awful. Frankenstein turned out to be utter crap. But we don't know that till you try. And there's some other hidden bits in here that are actually quite decent. There's a bit about Yetis. So we did a bit on cryptozoology. We can do that again. Look at historical stories of giants and ancient hidden histories of pyramids. And it's a lot more interesting than it sounds. We can make it fun. Fear of Frankenstein, the idea of genetic engineering, that kind of stuff. Yeah, pretty interesting, especially with mRNA vaccines out there, so we can look into what's going to happen with those. It's pretty frightening, actually. We've got televisions, should they be on or off? We'll probably go through that. We'll look at the reasons why television is, well, they call it the idiot lantern. TV programming is literal programming. We can look at, there's a few poems. I personally hate poetry. And I'll try and make sure that you hate poetry as well, by probably just making you write loads of it, so until you hate me as well as poetry. We've got a thing on frozen mammoths. That's actually more interesting than you think. They actually found frozen mammoths, these long extinct creatures, and they are so well preserved you could eat the meat. In fact, I think that's what happened. They actually started to eat it before they realized what it was. We've got a section on science fiction. Now, I love science fiction, as you know from yesterday. I love it. The things in here aren't that great, so we'll probably look at different pieces of science fiction because I'm a huge fan of it. What we might do is skip ahead so that I get some extra time for sci-fi. We can spend a whole week of me showing you why I like sci-fi and why it's so important to me. There's a piece on murder. I like murder. It's actually a surprisingly good story. We probably will do that. There's another piece on comic books, which I can't find at the moment. But there is a section on comic books. We'll do that because I like comics. And I think they get a really bad rap. In the first year of grade 11, I set up a Dropbox and we did a Judge Dredd comic called America, which was a surprisingly clever comic. It used Judge Dredd, who's the main character in the run, and it turned him into a background character, and it put a young girl as the main protagonist. Her name was America, and she was a literal metaphor for the country America, and showed how the country of America has been slowly destroyed by itself. And it was a very good story, very anti-American, very honest piece of writing. And apparently, they're actually making a TV show of Judge Dredd based on the America story. And a lot of people were kicking off about it. Oh, it's going to be too woke. How dare they make a TV show about Judge Dredd and have a woman as the protagonist? And I said to these guys, because I do a lot of podcasts and live streams with these sort of people, and they were saying this is going to be terrible. I said, no, it's actually, if they do it right, it's a fantastic story, and it'll be against woke culture, because that's what the story was about. So we'll see. So there's a lot of interesting stuff, and there's a lot of rubbish in here too. Now the problem going forward I've got is, normally we teach 24, we have 24 engagement hours. That's what we call it as teachers. We're in there for 24 hours. I'm in a classroom talking to students. Now, I've been given 28 hours this week, so 4 hours of my planning and marking is gone, straight away gone. And I barely have time for it as it is, so something's gonna have to give. So I like to make these sort of videos. I like to make extra material to be more interesting, and I don't know if I'm going to get time to do that. I'm not going to get time to do that. So as it stands, even last year, my video standards had to drop, especially when we were teaching from home. You know, I built a little studio now, a little set, so I do that because I do a lot of work online. But now, if we're going to be here in this classroom, I think this is a complete waste of time, but I know that other teachers haven't always been giving their best, so I get why they've done this. So we'll see what happens going forwards. We don't know. So I will try and do my best, but we're gonna have to be pretty strict with things like handing in assignments, because I don't have time to chase anybody. When we do a quiz or a test, it's going to have to be done there and then, and I'm going to have to switch the test off at the end of class, and that'll be the end of it. No one's coming back for a second bite of the cherry. No excuses. Get it done or get a 0. And that's going to have to be how it is, just because I don't have time. Homeworks, I will try and set homework every week. Now, we've been given a yearly planner, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to toss that. What I normally do is give homework on a Friday and collect it on a Tuesday. That gives people a chance to have the whole weekend to do it, and if there's a problem, they can come and talk to me on Monday. Because at your age, it's up to you. You're expected to be mature enough to be considered a young adult, and you're supposed to be able to come to me with your problems and get them resolved. So what I like to do is homework every Friday. I like to collect it Tuesday. I don't see any reason not to do that, so I'm going to go ahead and assume that we're going to be able to do that. So I'm going to do that. Homework Friday, collect it Tuesday. Obviously not this week because we haven't studied anything. I can't give you homework on an introduction. So, excuse me, sit down. Kids. And of course that's another problem. I've got a kid, he's going to be in class with me while we're here. He's 5 years old. You know, he doesn't get that this is a distraction. So things aren't perfect, things are going to be a bit rough around the edges. Hopefully we're going to be back in class. I don't know, I really don't. They're recommending that schools stay closed. They're recommending that teachers over 50 don't come into school anymore. It's looking like they're going to push towards this being permanent. Wouldn't surprise me at all, but we'll see what happens. Let's hope for the best and plan for the worst. So going forward, I need you to get on board with the idea that this is all up to you. The book isn't fantastic. It's not. I admit that the book is not. Is your bot okay? I think someone was talking about Daisy. No, she's not okay. She's not, but no one cares. I've got two bots. I've got Daisy that we built out of old laptops, and Amy. Amy was bought from Alibaba, and she's not very good.
The book has lots of things happening in it. Some of the things are good. I have to admit, I didn't read all of it. I did try, but I don't think it's possible for a normal person to read a whole book in under a month.
We use it to hold the door open. You'd have to go to my website too. You have to go to my YouTube channel to check that out. So the book isn't great. It's not fantastic. I will do what I can to make it as tolerable as possible. We'll skip as much of the really bad out-of-date stuff, because you know these books are out of date. You know, some of them are up to about 15 years out of date. So they talk about stuff that's irrelevant to us. I will try and skip as much of that sort of stuff as I can, and where possible I'll replace it with something that's either more relevant to you or more interesting to you. Where we touch on a grammar point, I'll probably cover it because the grammar points are very few and far between. You know that from grade 10. Grade 9 is very heavy on the grammar. Grade 10 doesn't have any grammar, same as grade 11. All you have is a few grammar reminders, and it's the same in this book. So what little grammar there is in there, we will have to cover because it's important. There's just nothing else in there to do. All of the quizzes and tests have been laid out by me ahead of time, so we know exactly what we're going to be testing and quizzing on. The final exams haven't been written, but I've been here 10 years. I know exactly what's going to be in them. It's the same every year. I have a tradition of writing my own story for the comprehension, but we'll see if we get around to it. So all of this stuff is stuff that you've done before. All of the grammar stuff is here. It's not that complicated. The focus of this year, grade 11, is more biased towards using the language rather than learning anything new. Now we're going to be practicing everything that you've picked up to grade 9. We're going to be now applying to the real world, hopefully. At least that's the idea behind this. So there's nothing you can't do in here. So basically you should be able to just go ahead and apply that to the stuff in this book. Now, it's, as I say, it's not the best book in the world, but it does work. I can make it interesting, and it's tolerable. I hope that at least half of you, by the end of the year, hope that English is your favourite lesson, because I've got ideas. What I try to do in class, and I know it's very difficult at the moment, but what I try to do in class is we have 3 lessons a week, and then we do a review exercise on Fridays, fun on Fridays. And a review exercise is usually a game where we can practice all the things we've learned and play a game in class. Now that's sometimes very difficult, and until we're back in class I can't do it. So we'll see what happens. So that's what you can expect from the book. As I say, not perfect, but it's tolerable, and it's not the worst. I think it's slightly more fun than grade 10, not by much. It's a lot better than grade 9, and it's okay. There's a lot of things in there that you can look forward to. The stories are quite good. The sci-fi section is really fun to do. The comic book section, we'll slow down for that. The bit on the Yeti is quite fun. We'll do a bit on cryptozoology, and that's a good laugh. Everyone's had fun with that. Instructions, as long as we're in class, I can make that fun. So we'll see what happens, and I'll do my best, and I expect the same from you.